welcome to MASHmouth, a podcast covering every single episode of the hit 1970s sitcom MASH. I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Ethan.
Ethan, so I wanted to ask you to start off the show. Who is your favorite non-main character of a TV show?
Well, a favorite is a tough question, but one that I really like is Kirk from Gilmore Girls. I love that guy. Gilmore Girls is one of my favorite shows, at least the first few seasons. I love the writing in it so much. It just has such a personality. And Kirk is like a handyman kind of guy. And he just shows up like in the first few episodes just as like a nameless extra. And I guess they started to like working with that actor a lot because they just gave him more and more to do. And he became like this real weirdo in town. And he's played by Sean Gunn, who you might know as Kraglin from Guardians of the Galaxy. And I like that guy a lot. Every time he showed up, even before he became a regular character in that show, I was like, hey, he's back. It was good. I like Kirk a lot. He's probably my favorite. Whenever I try to think of a good supporting character, that is definitely one of them. How about you?
So I guess mine is a little bit more main character-ish. I would say just like not main character of the show, but still like main cast. So in quick succession, I love 13 from House. Also Wilson from House. Amazing. Favorite character.
Wilson is my boy.
God, who else? And then I also really love Chibs from Sons of Anarchy and Oliver from How to Get Away with Murder. Fantastic. Love those characters. Even though, again, most of them are kind of like main cast, but they're just so great. Love those characters so much.
I still need to watch Sons of Anarchy. I've been threatening to watch it because you like it for as long as we've known each other. But, like, it just looks so violent and dark. Where I'm like, I need to be in the mood for this. I need to be ready to see people get shot in the face or whatever happens on that show.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. I think that I had like rose-colored glasses on when I watched it the first time. I still really love it. I think it's a great show. I think Kurt Sutter, who created the show, is really talented and really smart. But going back and watching some episodes, I'm like, I can't believe I watched this. I can't believe I loved this as much as I did.
At, like,
I was like,
15?
damn. Yeah, I was watching it at like 15, 16. And it was like, wow, that's a lot.
I told you that my cousin, like, met Kurt Sutter, the creator of Sons of Anarchy, at a bar once, right?
Oh, that's amazing.
I think locally. He was, like, South Jersey. And he just, like, oh, that's the guy who created Sons of Anarchy. Because somehow, like, that, he just knew that.
Yes, he's got a very distinct look.
And he just had, like, a drink with him once.
That's so cool. Oh my god, no, you never told me that. That's awesome. Kurt Sutter is also from New Jersey, so...
I don't think they, like, interacted, but they sat together. I know that at least. Who knows if he's telling the truth? It could be one of those things that people make up, which I don't think he would. My cousin met Kurt Sutter at a bar once, and, like, that's pretty neat.
That's awesome. I love that. But yeah, so those are my characters. I think you have a really fun character too. That's awesome.
So let's go from talking about things we greatly enjoy to talking about something that neither of us enjoyed at all. This is the first episode that we've watched that I don't think either of us even remotely liked. What do you think of this one?
I think I said this to you before we started recording, but this is, for me, this is going to be like a kind of a rant review. I was just so about this episode and didn't like it like really at all. I mean, it was like redeemable a little bit, but it was, I don't know, I didn't like it.
Yeah, this is the first one that I've seen where it was straight up like a bad episode. But I guess first we should talk a little bit about what this episode is actually about. So do you want to give a quick summary of the actual plot of this episode before we get into it?
Yes. So this episode is called Edwina, and we meet the episode's titular character, who is a nurse who is prone to these like clumsy, crazy accidents. And when the 4077's nurses devise this plot to get one of the guys to go on a date with her, Hawkeye draws the short straw, like literally draws the short straw, and has to go on a date with this really clumsy, crazy nurse.
This episode was bad.
We open up this episode with like this really, it was funny because it was this really like somber, like kind of mysterious almost music, and everyone's standing around looking really somber, and we're like, what the heck is going on? And then it turns out to be a birthday party for this girl, this nurse, Edwina, Eddie. And it's I thought that was really funny.
I'll admit was very cute, but it quickly lost steam almost immediately after that. Because she comes in and she, like, blows out the candles on her birthday cake and, like,
okay, wait, I'm sorry. Can I just cut you off? Yeah. So, I don't know about you, but after 2 years of COVID, the blowing out the birthday candles on the cake, hard enough to, like, splatter frosting on 2 people was so disgusting to me. I was like, think of the germs that she just spread everywhere. Where is her mask? I can't take it.
Oh, wow, okay. No, I wasn't thinking that.
Okay, just me? Okay.
No, that did not cross my mind watching this old TV show. No, I just thought the joke was kind of weird how she blew hard enough to spray frosting everywhere. Like, how do you even do that? Like, how
do you have that much force behind, like, blowing out a birthday candle? What the hell is going on here? But yeah, that was the first that we get this idea that she's kind of like, okay, that's a little bit weird, but you kind of brush it off a little bit, I guess. So right after that, they start singing for She's a Jolly Good Fellow, and she gets really upset and starts to cry, and she like runs out, and then we see Margie Cutler, who is, I guess, kind of like Hawkeye's girlfriend in this. It's kind of established, and she like runs out after her and asks her, "Oh, what's wrong?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't have a fella." And it's like, I thought that was really cute. She was like, I don't have anybody. I don't have anyone."
She was like, "I'm not jolly and I'm not a fellow and I'm 28 years old and I've never had a man care for me." Like, she kind of stuttered and said, "care for me." This beginning part, as much as I was like weirded out by the candle bit, is fine. Like, they could have gone in many different directions with this. Because, you know, you feel for her. You know, everybody gets lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Then they take it in a strange direction that I just don't think worked with with this cast. Like, I'm not even against this, like, premise as a premise, but, like, it just didn't work for me in this
we'll
setting.
get into that. Yeah, it didn't work for me, and I am, like, kind of against this whole thing, but we'll get into it. But what I wanted to note before we kind of get into the whole plot of this episode is that Eddie goes into her backstory of why she joined the army, and it was because her fiance back home got drafted and then stopped writing to her. And so she's like, screw him, I'm going to join the army and find myself a guy. And I thought that was such like a power move that she was like, I'm going to get laid in the army.
I thought that was insane. I thought, like, like, who in their right mind would do that? Because it's like you're going... She didn't want to go to Korea to help out the fight. She was like, I want to go to Korea to find a man. But I was just like, if you wanted to find a man, you don't have to join the army for it. You can just, like, go to a store or a bar. Like, I don't know what people do to find men in the 50s. But, like, there's gotta be an easier way.
I thought that was such, like, a funny... Like I said, I noted it down on my notes that it was like such a power move. She was like, well, this asshole joined the war, so I'm joining the war too, and I'll show him. Like, she really joined a whole ass war to, like,
find
say
a man.
F you to her boyfriend. Yeah. I loved that. I thought it was really funny. But you are correct that it's like there are easier ways to join, to like find a guy and not join the army.
Where you could die or get hurt or be separated from your loved ones and family. Like, there are many ways to find men.
And not only that, but it's a little bit later in the episode, she gives Hawkeye, like, the wrong instrument, so she's not even, like, really that good of a nurse. This whole episode is just falling apart as we talk about it.
And, like, this is just a personal thing, but her boyfriend who, like, left her for the army is, like, named Seymour or something. Mm-hmm. And Cutler's like, oh, he's very handsome because she shows him a picture of him. Whenever I hear the name Seymour, I think of two things. I think of Rick Moranis from Little Shop of Horrors or Seymour Skinner from The Simpsons. So, like, as far as I'm concerned, anyone named Seymour, and I'm sorry to any Seymour out there, is not a handsome man. So it's just, like, weird. It was just a weird setup to me.
I thought that I was the only one. When she said his name is Seymour, I thought I was the only one that was thinking of Rick Moranis in Little Shop of Horrors, and apparently I'm not. So I was so glad that we had this discussion.
We share the same brain, Vanessa.
Oh my god. Okay, so to get more into what this episode actually is, so after Cutler talks to Eddie, she realizes that, you know, she wants to be with somebody. She wants to, like, kind of go on a date, have, like, someone care about her. And, of course, the guys in the camp are established as these, like, doggish men who are just so sex-obsessed. So she talks to Hawkeye, which I didn't really care for this scene, but she's talking to Hawkeye, and he's, like, trying to get in her pants, and she's like, listen, I'm upset about this thing. I'm worried about my friend. And he's just like, don't be worried. Just have sex with me. And it's, like, played okay.
You're too
like,
focused on your mind. You should focus on your body, is what he said.
I hated that line. It was so gross.
I love Hawkeye. I love Alan Alda portraying Hawkeye, but I don't like it.
Yeah, wasn't the best. But I mean, it wasn't really, like, that egregious.
No, it wasn't, like, horrible.
Yeah.
It's just, like, you know, I don't like seeing people who aren't on the same page with each other. I don't like it. Just respect each other's boundaries is what I always say.
Yeah, so that situation is Cutler trying to say to Hawkeye, listen, one of you guys has to take her out on a date. Like, basically, like, pity date her, which I know that Cutler was trying to be a good friend, but it felt very, like, sad. It was kind of me. It's just sad. Like,
this is why it, like, really didn't work for me. Because it wasn't, like, funny or absurd. It was just, like, it felt very sad to this girl who, like, she's clumsy, but Hawkeye remarks something like her face that sends people away or whatever. It's like, this girl looks fine. She's cute. She's, like, a little redhead. And, like, everybody's acting like she's the most unattractive woman in the world. Even her friends who are like, you have to date her. It felt sad to me.
Yeah,
this episode was sad.
It was literally so mean. I noted in my notes so many times when I was watching this episode, I was like, this is literally just mean. And then after the scene with Cutler and Hawkeye in the swamp, then we get Radar, who was peeking in the women's tent, like the shower or whatever. And I was like, okay, Radar, stop being weird. Like, stop it. But he hears, really. He hears that the women of the camp, like the nurses, are gonna freeze out the men. They're not gonna have sex with them until one of them agrees to take Eddie out on a date. And I have a lot of problems with this whole thing, but what did you think about this?
Okay, so I feel like whenever we talk about these kind of storylines and like, oh, that doesn't hold up, we can come across as like a little prudish or a little like, I don't know how to describe it. But, like, I don't mind this as a premise in a different situation, in a different show. Like, you and I are both fans of the show on Netflix, Sex Education. And, like, that show's, like, raunchy and, like, has a lot of, like, this kind of thing can happen in that show. But, like, that just handles it better. And it's, like, a little more sweet and a little more, like, introspective about it. Where, like, you learn things about the characters while they're doing these, really kind of absurd, kind of sex-crazed things. Or even, more absurdly, I like the show Blue Mountain State, which is, like, literally just about, like, football players in college having sex with girls, like, but it's, like, absurd and funny. This premise would happen in that show, but, like, it was funny and weird, and they went to weird places with it. This one just felt like they were all too old to be doing it. it just didn't feel good. It felt sad.
Okay, so I kind of disagree that sex education would do this type of storyline. I think that maybe they would do a storyline along the lines of like someone needs to like pity date someone, I think. But here's my problem with this. This is like, to me, kind of like super sexist. Because
it was. I'm not even gonna argue with you on that.
Yeah. It reinforces this idea that, first of all, that women only have sex to offer in a relationship. Like Hawkeye and Cutler are more or less like boyfriend girlfriend, I guess, and he's just like doesn't want anything to do with her if he's not having sex with her. That men go like stark raving mad if they don't have sex for 3 days, which just isn't true. Like I you know, we understand that men have needs just as much as like women have needs, whatever, but you're not going to die without sex. And also, what really bothered me about this storyline was the idea that women weaponize sex to get what they want. And I just hated this whole like outdated notion of sex and gender and relationships. Like, it just really didn't work for me. Again, like, it's not gonna make me stop watching this show. Like, I knew what this was gonna be going into this episode. I just didn't like to see it. I just really didn't care for it. It was very like, this was written by men.
70s gender politics stuff, like where it's just completely not in line with anything that we would view today. Like, it is a guys versus girls story, and like that can work and be like funny today, but those quickly lose any kind of relevance or bite when the culture changes. I'm not saying this episode was ever a masterpiece, but it probably played better when it was in the 70s and like people kind of viewed things more in line with this. But also, with the guys going like crazy over not being able to sleep with women over like 2 days. They don't even establish how long it's been. Yeah. Which is crazy. The whole time I was like, they're lucky that they're in a co-ed camp, because like in the military, a lot of the time you're just with other guys. So you have to deal with that if like you're not going to be able to, you know...
Yeah, you're not going to be able to have sex with women if that's your preference. Like, it's going to be, okay, sorry. Like, it's just not available to you. I do want to note, though, that this episode aired in, what, like 1971?
Like 72 or 73?
Yeah, so this was, this was right at the cusp of really, like, women's roles and women's, feminism kind of changing to see women as more, human instead of sex objects. And obviously the show hadn't caught up with that yet, like the writing of the show, even though we always laud this show as being kind of progressive for its time. It just like hadn't caught up with like the women part of it yet, but it'll get there. So we'll see it eventually, just not yet.
Can't wait for Alan Alda to become the feminist king that we know him as today.
I do note Alan Alda as a feminist king. But one last thing on this kind of like sexist aspect of this, when the guys kind of start feeling it, that the women are freezing them out, Trapper says to Henry, he's like, what did he say? He was like, command the girls to cut this out. I was like, wow, I hate Trapper in this episode so much. I was like, that's so gross. I was like, okay.
So one bit that I loved, one bit that I thought was very funny with Henry is at one point he's in the tent with Hawkeye and Trapper, or they're in his tent, something like that, and he's wearing a bathrobe. And he puts his leg up, and it's like a lot of leg. Yeah. And I was like, that's a lot of leg, Henry. And then 2 seconds later, Hawkeye is distracted looking at his leg. And I was like, all right, cool. At least Hawkeye's on board with me.
Yeah, that was really funny that they were like, Henry, that's a lot of leg you're showing. I loved that. Oh, I know that we also liked, there was this whole scene, this kind of montage where you have the nurses kind of just rejecting all the guys for this like plot to, get Eddie on a date with one of them. And Radar gave one of the nurses like a slide for a microscope and it said, see you later. And I actually kind of thought that was really cute. I mean, of course she rejected him, but I thought that was adorable.
That was because she also gives him a slide that says "Get Lost" because apparently she just had that on hand. But that scene was like, wait a minute, hang on, Radar is also dating a woman? Like, when did that happen?
To me, that was like Radar trying to date a woman, not that she was actually going to date him.
I don't think you can give somebody a microscope slide without having a pre-established relationship.
Oh, that's that. I thought that scene was really cute. I liked that a lot. So then we kind of go into the men more or less like agreeing, okay, like one of us has to take one for the team and go out on a date with this nurse.
She's all that, her.
Yeah. So they literally get all the men in the camp, or what's supposed to be all the guys in the camp, into the swamp, and they draw straws, and whoever gets the short straw has to date Eddie, like go on a date with her and be nice to her and flirt with her and stuff. And like, I get the whole thing of like, no one wants to date her because she's so clumsy and will hurt somebody. But I mean, like, come on. Really?
Nobody thinks she's cute. She's a little redhead. Like, come on.
And I did want to note too that I said, is Frank Burns right about this? Because Frank was not having it. He really didn't want to do it, but they kind of like goad him into participating or threatened him.
Right. And like Margaret was right there. And I'm like, wait, if this went through and like he had to date Eddie, how would that affect him and Margaret? I was legitimately like, what about their relationship? Even though I don't like their relationship.
I was honestly wondering, I was like, does that mean that Margaret is also kind of freezing Frank out from sex too? Like, is she not? Yeah, I was, because then we get a scene later on.
I don't think she would.
Yeah, I don't know. So like, I don't know if Margaret was participating in this or if they just like kind of forced Frank to do it. But honestly, who wants to go on a date with Frank Burns? That's just gross.
I feel so bad every time we rag on Frank, particularly. I always want to clarify that we're not calling Larry Linville like ugly or unattractive or anything. It's the character, and I know he's like 78 or whatever
he's
now.
Also, yeah, he's passed away at this point, so.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
But still, I feel bad whenever we're like, ew, he's gross. I just want to always clarify that we're talking explicitly about the character, not the actors, and that goes for everyone on the show.
Yeah, of course. So then Hawkeye kind of gets the short end of the straw.
Literally.
So then we see Hawkeye kind of flirting with Eddie and whatnot. So I wanted to ask what you thought about that whole thing. I didn't think that was like too bad. I kind of thought that was cute, but what did you think about it?
I did not enjoy it at all, because she didn't understand what was happening. And again, it felt sad.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't even aware that it was something that he was put up to.
Yeah.
And like that's and She's All That, even though I haven't really seen that movie. I've seen the movie like once on TV, but there's a whole thing where it's like, oh, you were just doing this as a prank or whatever. And whenever that happens, you're like just waiting for that to happen because it's just a sad moment. They don't have chemistry. It's not like suddenly they're getting along and he genuinely likes her as a person. He's literally just sitting near her and being like, so what are you doing tonight? Like, very, like, non-committally as well. It would work better if, like, this whole episode would work better if they developed legitimate chemistry with each other, or Hawkeye learned something, like, if she said, I'm okay, I can do this on my own, like, in my own time. But that never really happens, as far as I remember. It was just kind of sad.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought that it was just kind of sweet to see Hawkeye like trying, but also you're absolutely right where it's like,
but he wasn't even trying because he wanted to help her. He was trying because he wanted to sleep with Cutler again.
Yeah, you're right. Like that is very true. Yeah, I thought that when I was watching the episode too, it's funny that you note that, like, if it had been something like any other character, even Hawkeye, if it had been along the lines of like they actually genuinely liked each other at the end and he like connected with her, or whoever connected with her and saw that she was just more of a person and whatnot, it would have been so much nicer, but it kind of just didn't happen.
You know what would make this episode work a lot better if it was Radar who pulled the short end. I know that she's supposed to be like 28 and he's supposed to be 19, even though Gary Berghoff is very much not. But it would work because they're both like very inexperienced, and like they would develop something together. But because Hawkeye is the main character of the show, he has to be the one to draw it. Yeah, it just didn't work with Hawkeye doing it. It would have been much sweeter if it was somebody like Radar. That would have kind of saved the episode, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, honestly. Like, yeah, I don't know. It didn't work for me. It was just not the best. And I mean, at this point in the show, we're still in season 1, so of course, we're gonna have the main character be driving the plot. It doesn't really get into the side characters as much in the early seasons. But yeah, I feel like if this had happened like later on in the show, it would have been a side character. Because they were, I feel, better at exploring the side characters just in general. But I wanted to just also say that Hawkeye and Eddie kind of go on this date in the swamp, and she is like super, again, she's just super clumsy. It also kind of like doesn't work. It's like, okay, so she's clumsy, you know what I mean? And so we get these
girl fall down.
Yeah, so we get these scenes where she's basically being so clumsy that she's hurting Hawkeye. And so I noted down this girl, the actress who is playing Eddie, is like 5'2", and she looks to be like 100 pounds. And it's like, Hawkeye, you're overreacting. Like, that definitely didn't hurt you as much as you're making it seem. Like, calm down, my guy.
That's true. I just kind of went with it, like with the reality of it. But yeah, she's tiny. Like,
like, calm down, dude. When they're going to the swamp, people are acting as if Hawkeye's gonna die. And it's just like, yes, okay, I get it. Like, she's clumsy and she could hurt you and stuff like that. But you're not gonna die by going on a date with this girl. Like, calm down. Please, people.
Yeah, I agree. This whole thing was just like very slapstick. Nothing wrong with slapstick, but again, it didn't have anything to connect to. Like, it wasn't sweet. It wasn't like overly exaggerated where it was like absurd in like a funny way. It was just kind of like, all right, come on, guys, I get it. I understand what's going on.
I feel like they tried to save it a little bit where at the end they said, like, Hawkeye says to Eddie, you don't have to hurt somebody else so that you don't get hurt first. Kind of implying that she is hurting, like, she's so clumsy and hurting people because she got dumped by her fiancé. I don't know. It just, like, it didn't really work.
Because that's how clumsiness works.
Yeah, I was like, was she just never clumsy before she got dumped? I don't really understand. I've been clumsy my whole life. Like, dumped or not, I'm just, I'm gonna be clumsy.
Yeah, it's true. As a disabled person, I guess I just need to not be dumped anymore to overcome that.
Oh my god, it's just, yeah, it didn't work. And then the episode's kind of over.
Granted, we watched this yesterday because of like a scheduling conflict, so I don't really remember how it ends, but I don't remember there being any like real resolution to anything. It was just like, all right, we're done. And there wasn't even like a lesson learned. Again, no. Like Hawkeye doesn't learn anything from this.
Yeah, and even she says when they're in the swamp, she's like, I'll tell everybody that it was, you were wonderful and we had a great date. Because she kind of like gets what's going on. She even says, she's like, I hear people talking, like, I know what you're doing. And I thought that was sad too. That was so upsetting.
It never not felt sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was MASH, so it wasn't. I still like enjoy the show. I enjoy the characters and stuff. So not that I liked this episode, but I was like, okay, well, this just wasn't a great episode. If this was my first introduction to a show, I'd be like, what the hell is this kind of show? Get this off my screen. Like, I just wouldn't like it.
I texted you yesterday that it was frat boy nonsense. Like, this felt just very, if this happened in the movie Animal House for like a scene, you'd be like, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah. But, like, that's just, like, a bit in a movie. It isn't the whole episode. Again, it was just sad. It was a sad episode. I felt bad for Edwina. I like that her name's Edwina.
I know, that's cute, right? I think the nickname Eddie is adorable.
I love girls named Ed and Eddie, like in Racing Arizona and Cowboy Bebop. Love those guys.
Yeah, and like that just goes along the lines of like, she was adorable. Someone was definitely gonna date her, and her being clumsy was not gonna stop someone from dating her. But whatever. Okay, it's a sitcom. I get it. But yeah,
it was a real not like other girls things where it's like, oh, I'm clumsy, I'm not like other girls. Nobody likes me.
But so they make reference that Edwina is leaving MASH, like she's going home, and then at the end we see her leaving. And I don't know if it was supposed to be reference that she and Hawkeye kind of had a romance for the 2 weeks that she was in camp or not. I don't know. Like, that just didn't translate to me. Maybe they were supposed to, like, have been hooking up during those 2 weeks. Maybe they weren't. I don't know. But then, yeah, at the end, she just kind of leaves. And she's like, thanks, Hawkeye. And I said, thank you for what? But whatever, I guess. And
thank you for going on a pity date with me.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that.
I don't know. But yeah, and then Cutler, like, beats up Hawkeye, and then end credits.
I don't even remember the beats up Hawkeye bit. Like, as far as my memory is concerned of this episode, it ended at their date when it was just like, all right, well, bye.
I said in my, because Cutler kind of has an attitude, and I said that it plays so well because Marsha Strassman is from New Jersey, and Jersey girls have attitudes. So...
We need to keep a tally of how many people in the show are from New Jersey.
Oh my god, yes, please. My entire personality is like being from New Jersey, I feel. So I do have a bit of trivia about Arlene Galanka, who is the actress who plays Eddie. So she had this like crazy prolific career, but I think that she's like the definition of a character actress in TV shows, because she was on things like The Mary Tyler Moore Show, All in the Family, Andy Griffith, Murder, She Wrote, Taxi, and that's just to name a few. And she was only in things for like 1 or 2 episodes, but I thought that was really cool. And she had this crazy prolific movie career too, where she played supporting roles in over 30 films. So she had a bunch of TV and a bunch of movies, and I thought that was really awesome. And unfortunately, this past year, she passed away on May 31st from complications of Alzheimer's disease at the age of 85. It seemed like she lived a long life and had a very, very good career.
Yeah, that's interesting. She had a Lucille Ball kind of vibe. I don't know if that's just the short red hair or that she was so slapstick, but I can definitely see this actress being more of a somebody than a lot of the other, like, short guest stars in the show. I'm not surprised that she has a big career outside of this.
She was cute. I liked her a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so do you have any final thoughts on this episode before we wrap it up?
Just that this is the first one that I've watched for this show where I fully was like, no, this is bad. And not even that I don't like it. I just don't think that they took this idea and like handled it in a very funny way.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of awkward and sad.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of, for me, this is definitely a throwaway episode. When I saw the title, I thought this was an episode that actually happened later, and I was kind of excited for it, but then I remembered what it was, and I was like, ugh, this isn't great. I think that as the show goes, this is one of the weaker episodes. Of course, you're going to have weak episodes in there in like a 200,000 episode show. Yeah, it's just, hopefully next one's a little bit better.
Yeah, hopefully. I feel like whenever we come across a bad one, or at least a lesser one, the next one's usually like much better. We'll see if that trend continues.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch the next one. All right, and with that, we'd just like to give thanks to Jacob Furibalco for being our technical consultant, Melissa, my sister, for cover art, and of course, our listeners, thank you so much. Our music, social media, and contacts for the show are linked in the description as always. And until next time, be wary of broken glass if you're only wearing slippers. Goodbye, farewell, and amen.
Bye, everybody.